This alliance is for individual administrators, teachers, anybody who needs to understand AI convergence. There's been a lot of attention on generative AI for a while, but we know there's a convergence coming and we want to help lead in that area. And then also about balancing AI with human intelligence. What are the development methods for human intelligence to try to balance what's going to go on with AI? Anybody looking to transform schooling, because the dated factory model is not working in most places. The national research is showing that there's a huge surge right now in a model discussion. And then also for companies who don't have AI embedded, holding their own relevancy stable, and why a crafted courseware and those kinds of things will remain their own sort of pillars of greatness, even if AI comes heavily into the market. And then envision workable futures. So here's what we're going to go over today. I'm going to go over this really quickly because you guys are going to all have the slides. I don't have to read everything to you. Types of AI, what to expect from the Omni AI convergence, the timeline that is being predicted for it, what are the accelerators in the market for it, what are our goals with the Alliance, and we hope that you're going to pipe up and say, oh, I have this goal, And then our featured founder, who's Mary Schlegelmilch from Cisco, is going to share a few things about what they're doing, because we think they're a foundation for where Omni is going to go, and they're already ahead of everybody else. And then we're going to have discussion time and talk about membership. Okay, so let me get started here. Anybody pipe up if you need to, and stop me if I go too fast or whatever. So this is the definition of Omni AI, and how we got this definition is we fed in all the types of AI and said, where is this going, especially in education? And basically it came back and said, here's your definition. Omni AI is the convergence of multiple artificial intelligence paradigms. So I'll let you guys kind of look at this. But narrow AI is at the bottom of the spectrum, which is where the bulk of the market conversation is right now. And then Omni, and then eventually as the later stages. I like to think of it as the mind of the enterprise and the dynamic mesh. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, you guys aren't talking right now. So when I envision what Omni AI is doing is I look at all the companies in the space, and those are the boxes at the bottom here on this slide. All your back office systems, those are going to need AI APIs. And not just embeddings within their own platforms, but the thing that is in between the things is represented by those little circles. And then all the tech systems, the hardware and storage, the security systems, the networks, the campus and hallway signage, and what's happening across the campus to direct motion and attention, all the outside stuff that is connecting a classroom to virtual teaching or matrix level teaching, like tracking cameras, virtual conferencing, and then of course your myriad of apps and tools and all the discrete stuff in order to create a more efficient model. So think about Omni AI as the thing between the things. Originally, this all came about because I wrote this book, The Human Singularity, as a discovery of what is human intelligence, and we'll get into that too in this alliance. I'm not going to talk about it a lot today, but one of the graphics in the book is this graphic that I'm showing right here, which is how AI is built. AI is really just pile after pile of algorithms. I mean, even neural networks is just an algorithm. It's not like a specific network effect thing, although Mary might disagree with me on that. But then there's all your different models and where they're moving to. So this is the graphic we have on the webpage right now to give you a little bit more understanding of the different types of AI. And as you can see, generative AI breaks into the large language, which we journalistically put the word next to that. That's text. It's text generative. Diffusion is the refinement of that text. It uses a different type of algorithm in order to do that. Adversarial is realistic output, which is running algorithms that counter other algorithms in order to discuss amongst those algorithms image creation, like what's realistic. And then transformer is also context. It's a different set of algorithms. Auto regression is prediction models. Then there's simulation models that will be coming to the market with Omni. And then variational autoencoders, neural radiance fields, which are commonly used right now in law enforcement to take two photos and predict a 3D model. And then there's the spatial temporal and computer vision, which are the machine eyes. When those come into robotics, you might have a total difference in hallway monitoring. And then, of course, there's some examples there. So as you can see, there's a lot of different things going on. We think that agentic is launching soon in K-12. Agentic AI is already being embedded in some platforms, and I'll talk about that too. So what to expect? I got a few examples of what you can expect. So like in student workflows, you've got this example of the student logs into their LMS and the Omni AI is watching the pacing and the performance, and then would route automatically a notification to the teacher or their pathway planner that that reading level may be off for that student based on how fast they're moving. Okay, so that's something it can do. LMS doesn't auto translate. The Omni AI intercepts and rewrites all the content to the student's native language. The student completes an essay, the AI grades and logs the score, emails feedback to parents. Okay, so this is the type of thing that we can expect when Omni comes into play. This last one, the student completes a software module or study assignment and enrolls in their next live-led class. Okay, so this is in pace-based models using time AI. The AI puts them into the accumulating cohort, and when the cohort is large enough, it calendars, the AI will calendar time that will work for all those cohort members and reserves the classroom, and then meanwhile starts accumulating the next cohort. And so I was notifying the teacher of who's moving too slow in the path. The admin workflow, what we can expect is that if attendance dips, the Omni AI might connect the data from the SIS and the LMS and the busing system to flag a pattern when a student is late because their sibling's bus was always delayed. Okay, maybe that was an older kid and they refused to get on their bus because their little brother wasn't on his bus yet. So those are the kinds of things we can expect. And then the updating, Mary can talk about this more because I know Cisco's working a lot in managing lighting and energy and all those things, HVAC timing. And then the teacher, but let's say a teacher calls in sick, Omni AI would review the teacher's courses and schedule and recommend either a teacher substitute, paraprofessional coverage with AI Copilot, or reschedule all those classes forward for that one teacher. And then here's an example of district level planning. A new funding rule would be added to state policy system. The Omni AI would parse the law, match it to the school's current systems, recommend eligibility areas so they can apply for grants. Board requests an equity report. The Omni gathers all that test data, behavior reports, intervention across all systems. And then the final one would be an update is made to an academic standard. Omni AI updates the entire curriculum map, all courses and all lessons, and additionally notifies any siloed publishers that have their pieces inside course pathways of the new requirement and request an answer. Are they going to meet this? Are they going to change anything, or are they meeting it in some other area? Right. So this is real intelligence. So what we'd be looking at in terms of the arenas is real-time decision making. So their instructional agents would be for PACE, adaptations, co-teaching, the AI co-teaching, a grading agent, translations agent, facility agent, who's adjusting controls and doing all those things, scheduling agent, teaching prep agent. So prepping a teacher saying, here's your next class, here's what you need to be ready to do. Do you want to do it this way, this way, this way? Okay, good. It's this way, then do this, right? Do. Communications agents, which like T-Mobile is into AI telephony, which would, if there's an alert in the building, it would auto dial all parents. An admin agents, dashboards, flagging trends, answering emails, auto reporting, taking all your spreadsheet farms and collating them together and aligning all the columns by reading actually what's in the data, and then compliance agenting. The forthcoming layers of a core architecture for Omni AI are these. The interface would change so that it's multimodal. There would be API orchestrators built, some semantic routers, an event bus, compliance agentry, and then agent containerization. So that's kind of like having an AI person working for you. And then a lot of data intelligence work and a lot of new action and execution with command routers. You'd also have, like it does in generative AI, custom low code workflow builders. So it would say what's the ask, build a custom code to do that, do it, bring it back into the main pile of work, and then collate all that work into one synthesis. Okay, so again, you guys can read all these as you go forward.
LeiLani, could I interject
Yeah.
one thing here? You know what I'm probably going to talk about. So, um, at some point, you have to, especially because AI can be very outcome focused.
Mhm.
We have to account for the actual human infrastructure, what it initiates a process, what happens at the end of that process, what that thing is, and then does that initiate something else? Because that's, I guess, kind of the fun part about artificial intelligence. We actually can now interact with the technology in a way we couldn't before.
Mhm.
Just thought.
No, I
Yeah,
think it's a
so
good thought. I really do. And especially Lonnie gave the example of like notifications for when students don't get on buses or even notifications of things happening in the school. And I think the important piece is we get trends gently forward in thinking about whether it's a notification that is done via text or via an agentic AI. It's that interaction of, hey, this has happened, and we are going to put this in place. And is that okay? Yes or no? I mean, some of those things are the platform programming of, what do you just automatically have as a workflow process, and what has to be double checked by human, because that truly is the benefit of building out those processes. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. That would
Yeah,
also,
if I may,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, please, after you.
I was going to say that would also point to how what might be involved in training the model also, because you have to have those humans you know, um, check how the model is performing. So,
Exactly.
yeah, and
Yeah,
not just with text, but also time, right?
Mhm.
right.
Go ahead, Gisela.
Yeah, I think it's just putting it all together. It's to me, at least at the beginning, AI it's going to function as a recommender, not as even what can be fully automated and what eventually will be, you know, check proof. It's at the beginning. It's going to be a recommendation that will require somebody vetting, and then moving forward. But it would still be a time saver. I think that's what everybody is talking about, right?
And labor saver, yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the things I want to comment that, Roland, what you said is that I would consider that you'd also have to train students to be their own self-agent.
Yeah.
Because if they suddenly see that they've been recommended to go back over this lesson or 4 lessons before, and they felt like they got it, they need to be able to raise a flag and go, no, 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 this is a wrong recommendation for me, right?
Exactly. And that's
Yes.
where the critical thinking, human aspect comes, into play.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So in terms of domains of influence, we think where Omni AI is going to come, and there is a whole progression to it. But administratively, it's going to do a lot in that email, the calendaring, the data tables, the reporting, not just text and document stuff, even in hiring and standards mapping, and of course, cybersecurity, building efficiencies. Mary can talk about that, pace-based professional development and staff learning. And then the classroom level, it will remain pretty similar to what it is, although I think and I'm willing to have people say differently, but I think the structure of the curriculum is going to change. How much a teacher has to do will be different than what it has done before Omni. Anyway, you can see the domain levels here. What I want you to sort of envision with Omni is that we may have to think about standards that anonymize maybe this domain's like a schools. So data can be looked at from a district-wide level, even a state whole level. So you can say, okay, if this course and these standards, what is the normed time for PACE? And you need big data sets to do that. If you just wall garden a single district, maybe you're off, right? Or you compare this district to another district, or you look at multiple variables, but you might need to anonymize data in different ways than you could do just within your own individual walled garden. Okay, the projected timeline looks like this, and this is from ChatGPT. So we're in a fragmented deployment right now. A lot of people piloting Gen AI. While I've been on the road this spring in some of the Learning Council's meetings, San Antonio ISD and a couple of the districts that were there in San Antonio with us were already looking at purchase. They were down to their final RFP choices. Same thing in Houston, same thing in Phoenix. There's a rise of efforts already in charters and labs. People are asking for integrated. Why doesn't this also do this for me? I mean, even when I look at ChatGPT, I'm like, why can't I upload a spreadsheet, 2 or 3 of them, and have it do all the work for me? So there's a demand there. There's also government funding coming in and major investment, obviously, in a lot of AI. So the mesh layers are coming, and this is what is being predicted. And then, of course, by 2023, 2025, 2035, we should see interface improvement for Omni, a lot of mediation going on, a true mind being created, but not a sentience, more of a just functional, like you said, Roland and Giselle, you were talking about, like shunting it to the human for the final decision, but taking a lot of the work off. And something called liquid curriculum. So if you've built a course, now suddenly it's self-adjusting to every single student. Now, the accelerators that we see as Learning Council are that this is number one. Only 28% of Americans have confidence right now in public schools. Another accelerator is this. We read a little comic. This is an AI comic, people. Teachers all excited a few years ago, devices will change everything. Then they've got so much training. They're still doing so much training. And then they think they're fantastic. They've got 245 apps. And then they realize it's gotten out of their control. And it's unbelievably difficult. And a lot of them are turning to just straight lesson building with ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, do whatever they can find, because it's easier than managing the complexity. So you can see why Omni AI, the thing between the things, is the new necessity. So here's other accelerators. I don't have to read this all to you. We all know there's chronic absenteeism, participation drops, unsubmitted work happening. We know there's a high school dropout risk is high. The math proficiency is not where we want it. Neither is reading. A lot of students having no academic growth. People reporting boredom and saying school feels irrelevant and still have learning gaps. The other accelerators, and this is our data as Learning Council, where we see the market dropping in public enrollment by almost half by 2030. A lot of that's the voucher programs that have come into the market. Now, we'd like that to not be so, but the public school closures predicted are between 5 and 10,000 cumulative by 2030. So you're going to see a lot of superintendents talking about, and this is happening in higher ed too, right? We got to consolidate, which is the exact opposite of what the consumer sentiment surveys say. People want walkable, local, homey couches in their schools, and the big districts are like, we'll consolidate. And that's a lot because of the structure, one human adult in every room, rather than let's think about a matrix sharing modality and how could AI craft a different structure of how we execute. So anyway, I won't read this all to you, but the number one driver in my mind isn't just that consumer sentiment, it's the teacher shortage. If you can't get the humans that you need, you have to lean heavier on machine intelligence.
LeiLani, could I also point out something that these two charts show? that the nature of analytic content may have to change. We've been depending solely on data. Data is great to show you a problem, but does not help with actually solving it. So now we actually have access to be able to analyze words, sentences, comments from teachers or counselors, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Will provide a better picture of, what might be going on with a student.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Spreadsheets show you problems at large scales, but you can only affect solutions at the individual scale. So I think at some point there will have to be an assessment of what information are we actually getting from what we're doing that will help point, AI and the human towards solving a problem rather than just looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know Ernie, I know you're on here too. If you take yourself off mute, he and his partner Keith have been working a lot on the crafting of the actual question. If we've got a lot of data, but we're still failing, maybe we're not asking the right question, right? Like this is another area where AI can really help. Are we even asking the right questions? Here's what we know. What do we not know? What are we not asking? Go ahead, Ernie.
No, I like what Roland was just saying. And Roland, it's not just the written word, it's the spoken word. It's the image to text. I mean, there's so many different ways to interface and give feedback to solve the problem that we didn't have these options before. So it's really the Wild West at this point, but we're identifying where all the different problems are and starting to come up with different strategies and solutions to those problems with AI. And it's using things that we never had access to before. Like I mentioned, the speech, text, visual recognition that AI can grapple with is just it's amazing what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just in the shallow end of the pool. Okay, so this is the Learning Council's assessment of where we're at on a national average, and this is just what leaders are focusing on. Like if I listen to superintendents that come to all of our events, because we put them on panels at the end, we have a lot of them speak. They've already been through the device rollout, step one. They still have equity and access concerns. That'll probably never go away, but they've proliferated apps like no one's business. 2,000, 3,000 in a single district. The teacher has an average of 150 logins or more, right? Then they've got a lot of teaching method, a lot of PD. I mean, districts are telling me right now, I can't talk to you right now, LeiLani. All summer we've got all this new PD we got to do. So they're thinking method, right? In face of all these problems, right? They've got new curriculum programs that come out. They're trying to attract and retain by buying robotics and drones and trying everything. Then they get into, oh yeah, everybody wants everything personalized. Well, they've been saying for several years, every student needs their own IEP, right? So they're very aware that personalization is a very big need and want, and yet that they're in a whole group normalization pattern. They're noticing dramatic attrition, the lack of teachers, the absenteeism, the low achievement. The noticing is spiking big time right now. So they've been talking about app inventory refinement. Like, why do we have 60 math apps when we only need like 3? Let's everybody get on board, right? So instead of the letting everybody pick out what you want, they're starting to do the leading. But the national average right now, in terms of what people say at the top levels of schools and districts, is we need to stress our humanity. Our culture is great. We achieve, rah, other sort of themes and goal statements are coming out of their mouths and being said to the public in order to try to attract and retain. Let's get rid of mobile phones in classrooms. Let's do this, let's do that, right? So they're on let's go back to the 1850s, one room schoolhouse, textbooks everywhere again, modality. If you study history, this is the last gasp, right? Because really what's happening is number 9. We're hitting an innovation ceiling the way that we do things now. And we're also in the middle of this new potential shift. Generative and time AI are already here. Agentic is near. So we're looking at a model divergence. The leading thinkers are already all in. And on one of these Alliance webinars, we'll bring up all the districts that we've been researching who's doing what with the 4-day week and the this and the that, and the let's kick out the grade banding and go. And these are publics, right? No more grade banding. We're going to go straight to all pace-based, mastery based, or whatever. This is happening now. So the augmentation of that with Omni makes it efficient. So that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about this. These are our goals for this alliance, and I'm wide open to you guys helping influence changing these in any way. One of them is we need to guard what we already have done well. There's a lot of companies in this field that have built very well crafted, animated, does remediation inside itself software, really high quality elements to learning design. And they're fully trained instructional designers in those companies, whereas not very many teachers are. So even if you hand a teacher ChatGPT or any of the open generative AI systems, that's not necessarily going to give you full instructional design, and certainly not animated and engaging in the same way, because it's mostly text or image only. So we have some guarding to do in terms of like, we've got what, 9,000 some companies in this field, and we need to keep what we need to keep, rather than just let everything go this other direction. We need a shared lexicon. We need some visioning and blueprinting and different things. We need some best practices. We need to serve ourselves as members, keep bringing stuff up, writing it, here's a white paper I just did, or here's a thing I just did, and we need to do some things for our sponsors. We need to consider these frameworks. This is one of our major goals. What is the structure? Right now, people think of schooling structure as it's either public or private or it's homeschooling, but that isn't necessarily the case. Maybe it's none of those and all of those at the same time. Once you consider what Omni AI could be or do, what is the form of schooling? Does it have to be factory modeled? Could it be other models? Those considerations, once you add a central machine mind, could be very different than they have been historically. And then the schooling model, I mean, we have lots of models out there. People talk about model, but really all of them are still whole group, even the online ones. And they're time banded. You have to have a start and end date to like enroll by dates, or else you miss the course. And that doesn't necessarily have to be true with AI. It could still be teacher intersected. You could still have live cohorting. The whole thing could change. And then method of teaching is another whole thing. I'm going to stop for a second. You guys think about that. Make your comments, because I haven't seen what people are commenting. I want to go back to make sure everybody knows at the beginning of the chat, there's a spreadsheet to fill out, please. Okay, so
I don't see a spreadsheet, LeiLani.
there's a link at the top of the chat to click on for a spreadsheet. Is
LeiLani,
it
you'll
not
have to
there yet?
repost it after everybody joined, because if somebody joined after you posted it, it won't be there. So you'll have to go ahead and repost it again.
Yeah.
Okay, I know Doug's listening. Doug, can you repost?
Yeah, I'll send it right now.
Okay. And also the link to this PowerPoint, you could repost. So
That's
another
there.
area of concern is the hardware and software together as a campus AI schema. The signage working with those scheduling system, the camera tracking going on when the teacher steps in, so that the students that are 3 schools away taking this class can come in digitally, but the ones that are physically there, they're there and everything's being recorded. Directional signage, whether or not there's audio enhancement in the classroom, the lights going on and off in a needed way. Like, I know the colleges are all onto that energy saving stuff, but a lot of K-12 has been missing out on that. And then exemplifying the roles. What are we doing in curriculum design to achieve this liquid curriculum ideal? What are we doing with lesson design? What are we doing? What is an instructor? And then what are we doing with assessment? Because AI can provide instant feedback. And then differentiation, how do we define that now that AI is in place? The tech use, is it every man for themselves using whatever they want in their classroom? And then time use, and then professional development. I think these are just rough things that we put in here for role exemplification. We need the alliance to work on, what does this really mean when you consider all the AI together? Where is it going? Should we create some common terminology here? And then these are the companies we found so far that are directly incorporating AI already. Mary, I put Cisco on here at the bottom of the administrative and analytics schools, but I don't know your whole story, so I know we're going to hear from you in a few minutes. This is just a rough example, right? This is certainly not all the companies in the game so far. But you can see over here in the farthest left column, Squirrel AI Learning is a Chinese company. RIID, South Korean AI tutor. This is happening on a global level. So it's not just the big consumer stuff. This is happening in certain islands just for education. So, Mary, why don't you go ahead because we're highlighting you today as a company that's already deep in.
Well, thank you. And I hope Cisco is not new to any of you. And we're really happy to be part of the founding member of this coalition and group. And I think the biggest piece that we say here at Cisco is we have been doing machine learning and really been integrated in AI for many, many years. In fact, everything we now do as a company, we have gated AI helping us do things internally as well as externally. So it's really important as we think about the use of AI at Cisco, how can we help our customers? And so as the education advisor for Cisco, this is one of the things that I'm deeply embedded in is how does it really help our administrators, our teachers, our faculty, staff, as well as students. And so we're thinking about this. And so one of the biggest pieces that we know in the research that we've done is the Gartner hype cycle. We will move through this Gen AI hype cycle faster than any of the other technologies that we have tried to put into education. Look at how long it took for us to just get devices into the hands of students, and it actually took a pandemic for some students to actually get that device finally. This is going to move faster, and they say that by the year 2027, we will be through the hype cycle. That's staggering. I'm just amazed by that. And so as we think about what that looks like, I'm always then thinking about how can Cisco help all of you, but also I just think about the community as a whole. And one of the biggest things that we're known for is our networking, right? But also our compute power. We layer in security to all of the AI infrastructure, and we're the only company that has really come forward with that first and foremost. NVIDIA is a major partner of ours that is doing the compute, and we have NVIDIA in most of our technologies in the hardware side. But when you buy a compute system for AI, meant for AI, it has security built in, but it also gives that observability. And so I love the conversation that we're having, Roland and Ernie, about observability and that notification and automation is happening all during that storage time. And again, our plan is to make sure that we help everybody understand the compute power as well as the bandwidth that they're going to need for AI. And so as customers go on this journey, this is a big piece to us. And how can we help you through this journey and where are you? So we have lots of tools available, free tools, and I will make sure that you get the link, and everybody that we work with, we want to make sure to get this word out as you are developing and wanting to put AI into your infrastructure, whether it's for the teaching and learning side or for running the business of the district. What are some of those things that need to be core and foundational is, of course, security. How do you keep that PII safe? How do you keep the observability happening, but also the trust? And so as we move on to the next one, this slide is the one that I said that I wanted to make sure that you got this QR code if we're going to give you this deck. But this will take you to the 6 AI principles that we live and learn and work by here at Cisco. But there's also an assessment tool that anybody can use, but also additional resources on things to be thinking about. So I have been giving this to every customer that I work with, and I lead the entire US public sector education part. And I'm making sure that all of our customers get these tools and get that to your AI committee, get it to your teachers in the hands of their teachers and let them start thinking. And I will tell you, as an administrator, as a teacher, I'm thinking about these 6 principles as we talk about AI. My biggest one that I talk about, first of all, is always the security. But in that upper right corner, fairness, equity. Is every student going to have access to AI, or is it only for certain students because we can't afford that SaaS application of AI? These are some of the things that we want to make sure that we can think through as we do that. And as we move on, I mean, I just want to leave you with 2 more slides. One, of course, is our Networking Academy. If you have not been to our Networking Academy site lately, there are 3 new courses. They are entry-level courses to help build that information collaboration technology skills of your workforce, but also for our students. What are the skills that they need for AI? But I also say use this curriculum. It's a no-charge curriculum. Use this curriculum with your community, your parents. And so this is just the first example, Introduction to Modern AI. And you notice that it is a 6-hour course. You do get a digital badge with it, but the learning modules are there, and it's for that target audience, high school, secondary, and I even say our community, our parents. So again, we have been working very hard to make sure that everything we live and work by here at Cisco, how can we give that now out to everybody? And so I'm super proud of the work that we've done in this area. Thoughts or questions or anything in the Cisco realm that I can help with?
Yeah, anybody want to ask any questions right now because then we're going to move into our other conversation. But this is great. I think everyone can see your company's kind of leading the foundation as we move forward into open, Omni AI.
Yeah, that's what our goal is to help everybody worldwide. Again, our mantra here at Cisco is how can we build an inclusive future for all? And so this is our corporate social responsibility side, is all of our coursework that we just hand out. So if you go to Cisco Networking Academy, you will be able to find these modules. Teachers can use them immediately. I've worked with some teachers last week, and they actually got through the 6-hour module as their night homework. Their administrator challenged them to do that as part of our workshop. And I think that they came out of the workshop better understanding their role in AI for their district.
Mhm. Yeah, and I want to also ask another founder, Ernie. Ernie, you've got courses also, I think that would be critical. They're above the foundational, Mary, that you guys, all the work that you've done, they're idiosyncratic to uploading your documents, uploading whatever, and then scripting and then running like professional development reviews. Ernie, you want to say a couple things about that too?
Yeah, Keith Derrick, who I'm working with, is a working. He's a district level. He spent 16 years as a high school principal, and for the past 2.5 years, he's been using AI and creating agents. And so his methods and models are proven. He's been using them over and over, training lots of people. So we teamed up on a course that's for school leaders, administrators, superintendent, district level people, to help them understand some of the key tools that AI can help them with and how to make their jobs more efficient. And we're real excited about that. We're getting a lot of good feedback at that level, because right now I kind of see, and I'm curious, Mary, your perception or perspective on this question, and yours also, LeiLani. I see 3 key opportunities. One is obviously educating people on what's possible. A lot of people have questions, but then the other 2 paths. One is leveraging the existing LLMs and custom building tools for districts and schools, helping them build the guardrails, is a term I like to use. And the other path is actually building software on top of the LLMs to solve those problems. Where do you see the growth, Mary? Custom solutions or software that kind of solves the problem for everybody?
I think we're going to see it in all 3. right? I think that schools are going to, and that's why I say we're now heading down into that slide of disillusionment. Schools districts are starting to figure out the cost of implementing AI in their district and how can they do that, whether it's for teaching and learning or for the running of the district. And what I say is always consider how can you help with AI? How can AI help you save money, be more efficient so that it opens up the budget for more resources for students? And so we're going to see some SaaS applications that we really have to build those guardrails in for the security side, but also then what is that hybrid environment in which we want to make sure that the PII of our faculty, staff, and students stays behind our firewall, but yet our students have that ability and the teachers have the ability to go out and use those SaaS applications. So we're going to see a shift in how do we really think about this in a hybrid model. And so, and I say that carefully because, I will tell you just a little bit of my background has been in hybrid teaching and learning. And in some districts from 2010, 11 to 15, 16, people are like, yeah, we are not doing hybrid learning. And then the pandemic kind of shifted us. Well, now we're in the age of shifting again. And how do we use that hybrid thinking that we did for hybrid teaching and learning to now think about how do we have some of these solutions be a hybrid, both cloud and on-prem, and how do we use the data? And I always say AI in a district, AI in any company will only be as good as the data that is part of it. So a clean data lake is what I really think that we need to impress upon teachers is making sure that you're being very self-conscious of the data that you're putting out there.
Can I mention, Drew, can you unmute too? Because I know I just
Yeah, I can.
threw an email
Hey,
over
Drew.
to Dave,
Good to see
Dave
you.
Bezant. Yeah, hi, Drew. I threw an email over to Dave Bezant going, hey, I see you guys are doing AI telephony, auto dialing. What's happening now? Do you want to give us a quick update, Drew?
Boy, that is way above my pay grade. But
Um,
is there an echo or are we okay?
no, we're okay.
Okay. Mary, I have a question about authentication. Cisco Live was down here in San Diego
Yeah.
last week, and the self-healing canvas and the network troubleshooting, it's really going to help districts that are automating some things. But what about the authentication piece? Teachers are really struggling with all these logins, as LeiLani consistently messages. But
Yeah.
what about students? Because that's going to generate the accuracy of the data as well. And it should be available outside of the school.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just returned home late last night from a briefing in New York City with the school district in which they just installed multi-factor authentication for all students, all the way down to the littles. And um, it's amazing how we're starting to look at biometrics now to help with some of that as well. And that brings up a whole nother piece of that information. So I think that the piece that bringing in the security of this as well as authentication, because here at Cisco, we have so many different platforms that I have the ability to use, and I have one login, and I've had that one login for over 2 years. And it gets me into everything that I need because of the security that's behind that multi-factor authentication. And I think as we continue to develop those guardrails and develop where we want students to be able to access, or teachers and or we even have to think about our staff, right? That is an important piece because we were talking about, if we have a large custodial population of staff that have different languages, we want to make sure that all of that is in the language they need, but it's also those same guardrails for them so that they clearly understand, okay, I'm secure, I'm in a safe spot. And again, this goes into those skills that I think every K-12, we take that on with COPA and SIPA, is to be able to say we are skilling our community to understand what is a safe environment? What does that look like? And how do you identify a non-safe environment? But again, multi-factor authentication, I think, is a key piece in this. And just 6 years ago, I remember talking to somebody about multi-factor authentication. They're like, oh, we'll never need to do that in education. And now we really do, right?
Hey, Mary.
Yeah.
My friend Anne Marie was co-running a company called Identimetrics. They're deploying right now across all of Puerto Rico. I think Blackboard brought them in for
Nice.
fingerprint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Auto pay. They have an auto pay lunch app and everything else. And you enter the doors, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there's a lot going on in that field. Okay, so let's do this. We have like, a little bit over 10 more minutes. I want to hear from you guys on this one discussion point for the Alliance. Like, what are the realities in Omni AI? What do you think we need to do as an Alliance? Let's just brainstorm for a little while. I want to hear from everybody. All you people on mute, you don't need to be strangers. I know you're here, Travis and Ramesh, and Serena.
I have some input there, Leilani. I think
Okay.
everyone has their specialty or their knowledge level with AI, and a lot of
Okay.
us could share with each other what we know. And I think that that's part of this group because it's such a fast moving environment right now. There's no way any of us could know everything. So if we see some advancement, if we see something that's powerful and working, success stories, new ways. I mean, this is a fast moving train, and having more brains together can help keep us all on the same path and up to date.
Mhm.
Yeah.
LeiLani, could I want to mention two words that most school districts are not aware of? Data governance. That is going to be a problem in any AI application that requires specific data or a specific format of data. Even just, here in Texas, we just, did something where we were trying to automate state reporting, and that went very interestingly because of the lack of data governance. And so that might be a place for a tool or something, because most school districts probably couldn't even afford anyone who could actually oversee that. Right? That's like one of the things that's low on a totem pole and not, worthy of the salary that you would have to pay someone to actually look after that. So
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that that's a primary role of Omni AI.
Yeah.
We've been and I just talked to one ed tech, by the way, I'm talking them about joining this alliance so that we carry on the discussion forward with all of our goals. But when it comes into the standard for the APIs and all those other kinds of things, they get involved. But I know I tried to communicate with them that I think one of the roles is what you're just talking about. The data governance role is way bigger than just what are the fields for the API, and the SCORM and the the standards and all that other stuff, because the vendors themselves don't open the kimono, all the courseware companies to go, here's my data, right? It's all it's locked in islands, it's siloed everywhere, and you can't attain Omni AI to customize pathways and use those courseware pieces unless they do. And
Right.
if they don't do that, then yes, everything's going to be built in AI. Because that's where things are it's just leaning that way, right? And the power and the push from those big companies is majestic. Yeah, so I totally agree with you. Ramesh, did you want to make a comment? What do you
Yeah,
think?
I did. I did. I think your point about, all these data staying in different islands is well taken, and that continues to be a problem as we are starting to look at some of the adoption, especially in the curriculum and instruction side, because what we are seeing that's coming into the classrooms, including the likes of ChatGPT and any other AI tutor or AI assessment, quiz tool, you name, there's a different flavor for each one of these categories every day. And what we call them as kind of like the bolt-on solutions. How are we going to move more towards AI as an infrastructure for curriculum and instructional delivery? So
Yeah.
that is a mega problem, right? So I think if there's some sort of, I think this is a great forum, especially for people who are interested in just that curriculum instruction piece and how AI is going to be integrated systemically and systematically into adopted curriculum, supplemental curriculum, and districts in user-generated, teacher-generated content. I mean, that's a massive problem. That's what we've been looking at over the last almost even before Gen AI. So, but I think this is I think this is going to be something that's going to have to be tackled in the as we are going through this AI adoption in specifically in CNI.
Yeah. Yeah. Travis, what are your thoughts?
Oh, okay, good morning, everyone. Actually, I was really listening to a lot of things that Roland talked about. One of the things I'm kind of seeing is that, out of all our conversations about 21st century, for the majority, a lot in particularly in K-12, we still have a 20th century mindset that we're trying to address this from. We're judging it from the 20th century, what we know, our fears and everything. And so I think that's causing a lag in really how we're embracing a lot of this information. Definitely data governance. One of the things I'm seeing, and because I deal with a lot of leadership, is that there's just not this awareness, particularly around data governance and just data in general, what needs to happen. And we think we just turn it on, plug it up, and then we're wondering, well, why are we not getting the results, or why are we not getting the information that we're looking from and for looking for? And it's just because we really don't understand the nature of what the data should look like, and what as opposed to what we're trying to achieve. I also think that when it comes to like, let's say we were talking about the data and what we're looking for, and not just looking at the spreadsheets. There's also what I've always seen is that we're looking for certain specific biases from the data. So when we're looking at a spreadsheet, we're looking for A, B, C, and D. We're not looking for what's this trend, what is this anomaly over here, that's when I see this happening, what are these trends that are taking place that we really don't pay attention to, that really have meaning when you look in deeper. And I think because what these tools allow us to do is to dig deeper and to look at the whys, and it can take you down a rabbit hole, no doubt, but I think it's worth the investigation, because I think one of the things with AI, and when I'm looking at, I deal a lot, I've been playing a lot with data visualization tools and things, but it's the ability to pull information together that you normally wouldn't have, and beginning to see images, trends, and things that you didn't know were there. They've always been there. We just never saw them. And so I think this is what the opportunity that AI and all of these tools offer us, is to see stuff that it's been here all along. We just couldn't see it.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, Serena, I know you're on here. You don't have to turn your camera on. Do you want to mention kind of what you're up to? There you are.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I keep getting stuck on, I speak with educators all the time, as you know, and a lot the ones that are advanced know that they need to, a change and adjust, but pedagogy, curriculum, everything is a change. But until we have assessment changes that mirror what we really need students to learn in terms of durable skills and human skills, teachers are going to teach the test in public schools. The only things that the only schools that are going to adapt are the ones that are not public, the charter, the micro schools, things like that. So, but I don't believe that we can shift, the majority of learners until public schools adjust. And to do that, we need policy changes that shift the assessment. So I work
Yeah,
with I work with K-12 and higher ed, on a daily basis, and that's my fear, is that we're not changing the assessments.
Mhm.
yeah, and I think that's one of the things that this should be the purpose of the Alliance, Serena. We should be, as Learning Council News Media, we have a little weight, so we can go to legislative level and go, what are you doing? Wait, you're not, what? Anyway, yeah, so we need to work on that. What do we
Right.
communicate? How do we communicate as an alliance? to them. That's important. So thank you for
Yeah.
that. Matt, I know you had your hand raised.
So LeiLani, I just want to add that the problem now is that, with the abandonment of the federal Department of Ed, it's going to be a state by state basis.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go to every single state.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll start with Arkansas since I'm right here. Okay, Matt, thank you, Serena.
Yeah, I raised my hand like a good student. So I just dropped in the chat. When my brain goes with AI, this is a very good session, by the way. But just what you touched on, job market for teachers. I thought it was interesting that you still, even with the advent of AI, you still think because of the teaching shortage, education is a viable career path for people still, I guess. I was wondering how much you foresee AI taking that over and displacing human beings. And then also, there's the whole overall instructional strategy because AI is not good or bad, but K-12 or higher ed, it's out there. Students are using it pervasively for papers and so forth. I grade papers. I can tell you right out of the gate if something's, you can just tell if it's Chat GPT or whatever AI in general. And then, and everyone wants to talk about the academic integrity because there is no, you have some vendors that say, oh, yes, we can detect AI. No, you can't. So that whole piece right there, it's regardless of which hat I'm wearing at the time, that's what I get to hear about a lot. They're like, "Oh, about you're a director. You know what's the answer?" Well, I don't have the answer. If I had the answer, I'd be I'd be on the LeiLani Kaufman lecture circuit if that was the case. So
No, I think just to answer your question on that, like the teacher shortage, right? It's not going to go away. The projections are we're going to keep losing more. We're going to lose another 6% of all the teachers in K-12 by the end of this year. The retirement levels are really high. The burnout levels are higher. So I don't consider, I mean, anybody who says this is going to replace teachers, I respond with that doesn't matter because we can't get them anyway. Okay. So what matters is we take the expertise that we have and extend that, right? So those teachers we have become elevated and unburdened, right? So AI takes over the not being able to get additional. And we also start communicating to schools and districts, hey, you can't find the teachers, convert salary to what you need with tech. Like, come on, right? Like, this is ridiculous. So, okay, so we have I think we're at the top of the hour. One more comment from you, Gisela.
Yeah, just quickly, what Mary said about foundation, it reminded me of what we were talking about data and workflow 6 years ago or so.
Yeah.
And so it's all, of course, it has been said, but fast forward after the pandemic, everything was catapulted to exactly where you said it would be, way back then. And this isn't not going to be any different. The 2 points that I want to raise here with regards to the role of this alliance, surveying. We haven't talked about surveying people and surveying schools, right? So as we know, it's not a plug and play. AI is not a plug and play as any app wouldn't be. But the schools have been inflated with apps and all kinds of legacy and new technology. It needs to be identified. It needs to be mapped out. It needs to be understood, and then recommendations need to be made. Based on where the school wants to go, and hopefully where the school wants to go will be, will involve that governance, the policy and the culture change. More importantly, because it needs to come from grassroots. It's not going to be a top-down approach. It has never been the case. It's going to evolve, and the more buy-in there is from teachers, from students, from parents, the faster and easier the assimilation will be.
Yeah, I wrote down that we need to have a communications plan for the Alliance. I totally agree with that, because we're gonna have to educate first. If we ask people or survey people what they want now, when they don't understand where it's going or the potentialities, they're gonna
Right.
want something other than the potentiality because they don't understand. So I think we have to educate
Right.
more than
And
anything else.
demystify, yeah, and
Yeah,
definitely
carry on.
demystify it, because there is fear there, and you know, I think breaking down with examples will be the role of this alliance, you know, so we can get that buy-in.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I wish I could have called on everybody that was on here. I hope you guys come to the next ones. We're gonna keep doing these. We want you to join us. This is my founders roster so far. People who've actually said, yeah, you know, they've joined or whatever. And Mark, I hope that you're in on that because you and I haven't talked yet. Mark Lowney. But I want to keep expanding this. We had a tremendous amount of interest. Unfortunately, today was a holiday and we forgot that in our terrible lack of planning skills. But we want to grow this group. We want to do what Gisela was just saying. We really want to expand and make it, you know, a thing. So this has been the first one, and thank you guys for joining. I took notes. We're going to continue. You can write into the group at any time. The email follow-up is going to tell you how to get into the group where you can just chat and add documents. So I'll send you that as well. Mary, thank you very much for being my premier show and tell today. We'll have more show and tell. If you want to show and tell, then tell me, and we'll plan that into all the upcoming virtual meetings. We're also planning late March live meeting, hopefully in wine country, just north of San Antonio and west of Austin, just so you know. We're planning one of those for next year. Okay? Thank you guys very much for being with me. Thank you, Ramesh.
Thank you.
Travis.
Thank you, Lani. Thank you for your
guys.
leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Right.
Bye-bye.